So we're talking about mastery approach and avoid and performance approach and avoid. So the first category, the top left, mastery approach, these are the student athletes that want to develop the skills and concepts and really make sure they understand the process and are really learning the information to be able to utilize it in the future. And so this is really the category we would like our students to be in. Mastery avoid category right below, these are the student athletes that they'll want to have mastery of the knowledge because they want to avoid not meeting specific standards. So in the example of the student athlete that had a performance goal of receiving an A on a chemistry test because the coach set that standard to meet the team GPA, this could also be flipped to a student that has a mastery avoid goal orientation, in that the student wants to master that knowledge for that chemistry test in order to avoid not meeting the GPA standard that their coach has set. And so these are students that still want to master the knowledge, but they're not doing it necessarily for the sake of learning the information. They're doing it for the sake of making sure they meet standards that are set for them. Another example of this could be a student that is applying to colleges, and the college has set the standard of earning an ACT score of a 25. So a student could focus on mastering the knowledge necessary to earn a 25 on an ACT exam because they want to avoid not meeting that standard. So that's mastery avoid. Then we have performance approach, and this is for a student athlete that is focusing on outperforming others. So they want to make sure that they are performing above the peers and the people around them. This can be kind of exemplified by teachers and professors that do course grades on a bell curve. So I'm only assigning so many people A's, I'm only assigning so many students B's, etc. And that really facilitates that competitive environment in a classroom that could result in a lot of the student athletes in that classroom having performance approach goal orientation. And then the last one is the performance avoid. And these are people that avoid demonstration of low ability. And so that means that they avoid putting in a lot of effort for an exam because they don't feel confident in their ability to perform well in that exam. And so if they are to take the exam and do not perform well, they can go back and say, hey, I really didn't put a lot of time and effort into that exam, and so that's why I received a low score, not because I have a low ability to learn that material. Okay. So now we have goal orientation. What can academic mentors do? So academic mentors can really encourage students to focus on the process of learning and really focus on their own performance as opposed to the performance of the people around them. We really want to make sure the students are kind of exemplifying that mastery approach lens, and really just focusing on learning the knowledge and gaining a mastery of the course concepts for their own benefit, not the benefit of outperforming others. Second thing we can do is we can avoid clustering student athletes in the same classes. So if our student athletes who are used to competing against each other on the field are also then put in the same academic space, they're going to be more likely to try to compete against each other in that academic space as well. And so if they're all in the same classes at the same times, they're going to be sitting there comparing scores and performances, and so it'll be facilitating that performance goal orientation as opposed to a mastery goal orientation if they're all in similar classes. And then the last thing we can do is really focus on relating what the student athletes are learning about in the classroom to their real world experiences. If we're helping them connect what they're learning to the real world experiences, it's going to keep them more interested and invested in actually learning the concepts and mastering the concepts. The example that I tell people a lot is Ball State University has a Com210 public speaking class. This class is aimed at teaching students how to speak proficiently in public. And so what I tell a lot of my student athletes that are not necessarily excited about learning that material is, as a student athlete, when you become a junior and a senior, you're going to be responsible for talking to the media. You're going to be responsible for kind of doing those types of public engagements and outreach as a student athlete at the collegiate level. And if you don't have good public speaking skills, you're going to struggle in that environment. And so I tell them that this public speaking class that you have to take is really preparing you to be successful when you're a junior or senior and you have to talk to the media or you have to do some public relation events for the team. This class is really going to set you up to be successful. And so because the student can relate what they're learning in the class to an experience that they're going to have in the future, they're more invested in actually learning the material and mastering the material for the course. So this ends our discussion on the 3 different motivational theories that we talked about today. The first one was attribution theory, the second was Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and the third was goal orientation theory. My goal for you today was to make sure that you had an idea of what each of those theories was, as well as was able to take away some action items that you can enact with your student athletes, and things that you can help them grow, things that you can do to help them grow as learners. And so my last poll everywhere for today is kind of a reflection on what we've talked about today. And so I really want to make sure we're able to reflect on the things that we've just discussed, to internalize it and really think about how we can utilize it in the future. So I'm going to switch over to poll everywhere again. And the first thing I want us to think about is, what is one strategy you learned today that you're going to be able to try with your student athletes in the last few weeks of the semester? I know it's November, it's right before Thanksgiving, but we do still have a couple weeks left of the academic term, and we still have opportunities to help motivate our students with their academics. So spend about a minute or two thinking about what's one thing that you can do in the remainder of your term to help your students in the next few weeks. Yeah, so focusing on effort, not necessarily performance. Obviously, we need our students to perform well in the classroom, but making sure we're putting a good focus on the effort they've put in to be able to be successful in that classroom. So that's definitely a great example. Okay, our next question is, what is one question that you have after this presentation? I really want to hear some feedback about what you guys thought about today's topic. And so if everyone could please contribute one question, that'll give me an opportunity also to reflect after we've done this presentation, and maybe through email or some sort of other communication, give you guys some feedback to answer any of your unresolved questions. So thank you everyone for contributing your questions. Back to our presentation. I do have one last scenario I want to talk about. So we're not going to necessarily do this as a poll everywhere, but I really want you guys to think a little bit about, based on today's discussion, really think about how you would handle this situation. So you're an academic mentor, you're currently at study table for the night, you're working with one of your student athletes, and so your student athlete has studied extremely hard for an exam. Going into the exam, the student was very excited and felt extremely prepared. The student even told you this was the most time and energy they had put towards preparing for an exam. Your student comes into study table after taking the exam, you check Blackboard together and realize the student failed the exam. Your student is extremely upset and makes comments like, "Why did I even try? Looks like I won't be studying that hard again, and the teacher is out to get me." How do you handle this situation? What do you do if this is the second or third time this has happened with your student? This is a real life example from an interaction I've had with a student athlete previously, and this type of situation is something that regularly comes up in my line of work. And so this is something, as academic mentors or as people in colleges and universities working with student athletes, we need to be able to be prepared to handle situations like this. And so just as an exercise of your own reflection, maybe after we're done with this tutorial, just spend a couple minutes thinking about how you could handle this situation based on the 3 motivational theories that we talked about today. And these are the references from the presentation. So I would just like to thank everyone for coming to this online tutorial today. I know it's really hard to get a large group of people to sit down and be at their computers at one time, let alone a large group of people to actually contribute through an online service like Poll Everywhere. So thank you for everyone today. And if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me at my Ball State email, enpendleton@bsu.edu. Thank you again for your time today, and I hope everyone had a great experience. Bye!